Hey, this is Ricky Kalmon. Welcome to another episode of Amplify Your Mindset. As always, thank you for listening and watching. Very excited to have an incredibly talented, unbelievable person, Andrew Zimmern. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you. Andrew, do you have enough on your plate? I mean, you've got constantly stuff going on, and this is so exciting.
But I got a lot of time to make up for. You know, it's interesting. I mean, there's two schools of thought, right? I mean, you say yes to a lot of things, and that dilutes you. And I've lived that pain. And so now I say yes to a lot of things, but we have a metric here in our companies of getting rid of things very quickly. So I kind of liken it to the, take two bites of the slice of pizza. There's no such thing as bad pizza or bad sex, right? That's what they say. But the fact of the matter is that there's so much pizza and there's so much opportunity for sex, you really shouldn't waste it on the less than great stuff. So what you do is you take a couple of bites of pizza, and if it's not a good slice, throw it away because there's another slice of pizza on the next block, right? And that's sort of how I like to approach things. I say yes to a lot of things, and then I divest myself of a lot of things. Obviously, there are things that are automatic no's and things that just aren't in my wheelhouse. If they don't have a social justice component, if they don't leave the world a better place after we've made it, then we're not interested in the deal of any kind at any of our businesses. So we do have a metric for saying yes or no initially. But yeah, I say yes to a lot of things. I'm involved in a lot of things. And quite frankly, it's been super, super fulfilling for me personally. I've gotten to be involved in a lot of really cool stuff simply by saying yes early and often.
I'm sure you've been asked a lot of questions. I'm not going to ask you the same questions you get asked the most, but I am going to ask you, are you concerned? You have tasted a lot of very unique foods in your life, and I'm sure you've had some kind of question like this. You've got a lead stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
It was sort of, I mean, here, I've talked about it this way. It's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's also a bit of a chicken or an egg thing. If Bear Grylls didn't like being dropped off in the back-ass end of nowhere and, sleeping in the snow and rain and all the rest of that, he would have quit a long time ago.
Right.
I like food. I even like the things that I don't like. A couple of chef friends of mine pointed out to me a long time ago that the encyclopedia of tastes and flavors and opportunities, and I'm not talking about just restaurants or just raw ingredients, but living with tribes, eating foods that only a handful of people in the world have ever eaten. There's only 3 people on planet Earth, I think, who've ever tasted something made with dinosaur, or tasted something made with 3-year-old bog butter, or tasted a giant Pacific sea scallop. I mean, and I could go on, and I've done those things. And so the sense memory and the flavor bank in my head is one of my most valuable assets. I love that. So I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. Even the ferociously awful stuff, I'm so grateful I got a chance to try it.
You touched on so many things, and there's like 5 shows based on what you just said. No, it's true because, and here's the unique thing. And I was referring to, again, the earlier shows of bizarre foods and traveling the world and trying things. And one of the things that I actually noticed, and even reading more about your bio, and I told you I've been following you for years, is that you make eating food an experience. It is a memory. And me being a mindset guy and about tapping into the thoughts and bringing back those feelings, because we do taste foods or we smell foods or we walk by a food, and it literally just brings the memory of an occasion, an accomplishment, good or bad sometimes.
Oh, yes.
But your bank is...
And smell, I mean, I'm preaching to the converted, but smell is the most powerful sense we have in terms of memory.
Right.
A smell can bring us back right away. It's a very primal instinct. It's fascinating to me. I am very much an action experience person. because I think that's how we learn to think. I adamantly insist that it is not the reverse. And what I mean by that is that as human beings, we can act our way into right thinking, right? So if I tell my kid, hey, make your bed every day, you're going to feel good about yourself. You'll feel better about yourself. Do an esteemable act and your self-esteem will grow, right? Return at night to a room that you made neat yourself and it will have untold benefits for you later on. Well, that's a deal that I'm setting. I've got a carrot there that I'm dangling out in front of him. All the thinking in the world about that is not going to make it true. But the minute he starts doing it, after 5 days, 2 weeks, a month, tops, all those things have come true, right? And so you can act your way into right thinking, but you cannot think your way into right acting. All the thinking in the world and sitting on that stump and pondering and intellectualizing, which leads to a lot of excuse making, will not change your behavior, right? So you can't think yourself into right acting, but you can act yourself into right thinking. And if we can change the way we think about something, that unlocks all of that potential in the human brain to have an experience or a group of experiences that you then have something to sell to other people, and then you can start changing the world around you, not just yourself, right? Because you have something saleable and scalable, you know, and that I think is the secret to successful living.
Okay, my friend, you see me smiling here. You're reading directly out of my book. You're reading my language. You're speaking my language. And, you know, this also sounds like it's coming from a person, meaning you, that has lived this. This is, I mean, what you're talking about right now, this is who you are. But this must have started something for you. At one point, you know, when we were born, you know, our playing field was even, you know, it's just empty. And over a lifetime, these experiences, good or bad, just start molding and shaping our software and our internal hard drive. But this man who just spoke as though you're speaking to your kid right now, or your kids, and then talking about, you know, life itself, that sounds like somebody talking from experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had a fairly normal childhood growing up. I had a fairly tragic bunch of years in high school that sent me down a path that I was born to live, simply because I believe that alcoholism and drug addiction is both learned and genetic. People can argue about that till the cows come home. I have no interest in that argument. I have no horse in that fight. But suffice to say, I exhibited alcoholic and addict behavior way before I picked up a drink or a drug. So I do believe it was in me somehow. And, you know, by the time I was 29 years old, I was a homeless street junkie living in an abandoned building and stealing to support himself. I had fully detached from society. I was non-functional. I was a user of people, a taker of things. And, you know, I crawled into a flophouse hotel and tried to kill myself. And I woke up and I wasn't dead. And 3 days later, I started the sobriety that I'm currently in. And that was almost 29 years ago. So when you go through that kind of experience and someone comes to you and says, well, you have a choice. You can go on using and suffer an alcoholic or addict's death, because alcoholism and drug addiction only leads one place: jails, institutions, and death. Not necessarily in that order. Sometimes it's institutions, jail, and death. Sometimes it's institution, jail, institution, jail, institution, jail, death. But the end of it is never pretty. And I made a decision there at that moment when I was presented with that choice, that, by the way, a choice I had rejected 1,000 times before then, but I was ready 29 years ago to hear that message. And that message of hope came with an exchange. There was a deal to be made. You've got to start to live your life on a different set of principles. And so I did. So essentially what I was doing was I was experimenting with new lifestyle, which meant I had to really pay attention, right? If someone is telling you to do things differently to get a different result, it's not automatic. You have to pay attention. And so that's what I did. I paid attention. And over the course of the years, it's led me from sobriety into consistent sobriety, into emotional sobriety, something that I pursue very, very conscientiously. I still try to go away every year somewhere and do a 3 to 5 day program, tune up, something to work on some aspect of myself, whether it's trauma or intimacy or anything. And over the course of that time, I've learned a lot of things that have been successful for me that maybe I can talk about with other people. And that is a very, very valuable and important tool for communication. Obviously, I'm a storyteller professionally now. And it is, you know, as someone who writes and teaches and makes TV and cooks, which is just a different form of storytelling and messaging, I have found my experience in recovery to be invaluable. It's made me who I am. And it has formulated, it's forced me, right, to consider things like what keeps me sober, how do I achieve happiness? I actually have to find out real answers to that questions that have real sandbox 1, 2, 3 instructions, right? I can't handle complex stuff. I need to know very simply what's going to keep me sober. I need to know very simply what's going to keep me free of anger and resentment and jealousy and fear. What's going to keep me happy? How do I then put actual tools in place to do that kind of stuff? So I've done that, and then I've had the opportunity then, as your platform grows, start speaking on things like that. You know, everybody wants to be happy, and you know, Brene Brown famously, I think a couple years ago, wrote that, you know, if you want to be happy, you have to, you know, be purely empathetic. And you know, the path to happiness goes through empathy. So then it's like, well, that sounds so complex. How do you behave empathetically, right? So I actually had to think and consider things like that and come up with a tool for myself that I could use to put myself in an empathetic mindset. And that is a combination of service and being the dog. So when I'm doing things for other people, I'm not worried about my own problems. And I'm doing esteemable acts, and actually helps me feel good about me. But most importantly, I'm not prone to the ridiculous, crazy thinking inside my head. And when someone is in trouble, rather than telling them what to do or operationalizing or intellectualizing, I just try to be the dog. I just want to get down on the ground and be with that person. And when you do that metaphorically in your head, and you actually put that into a physical action plan, it's immensely satisfying. Your life completely changes. I don't do that every day. I'm no saint. I'm not any better or different than anybody else. I'm a very run-of-the-mill 59-year-old Jewish guy from New York who had a couple of bad things happen to him, and he solved a couple of extra problems. And these are the tools that have worked for me, that I tried, you know, by trial and error, and just kept track of what worked for me.
Okay, I didn't expect that answer. And you gave like 5 life lessons, whether it's personal or professional. First of all, one of the things that I want to identify here is that, you know, self-discovery never ends, which you discussed. Repetition is important in habits. And, you know, I ask my audience all the time, Andrew, name 3 habits you have. And I say 3 habits, name 3 habits. This is so common for me on platform to talk about this. And usually people start, do you mean bad habits? But yet I never even asked that question. And yet they're already asking to clarify the question. And by the way, I say it 3 times to identify that I said it 3 times. And I say this because we've almost changed the word habits. And you have now shown us again by your story and your life that you had some things happen that created negative habits, but it's also a habit of staying on track, because the old negative habits that served you then aren't going to serve you now.
They don't work.
You have to constantly reinforce the habits of today. And moving forward to the end of that last tag, what you also said was about being present for your family, your business, your associates, whoever you're interacting with. And I really believe this. I mean, you're a busy person. You've done hundreds, thousands of interviews in your career. You're on camera all the time. But one thing that I really have been a fan of you is that you make me feel, and even on this call right now, we're present in this moment. When I'm watching you on camera, I think one of the qualities that you bring out, and I want to share that with people, it's so important, and it's unique that you brought that up. Be present. Turn everything else off. Your time's valuable, my time's valuable, and I hope the people listening get value out of this.
Well, it's fascinating, you know, discussing these things and how we can become that best version of ourselves, how we can get a little more happiness and calm out of life, how we can be of more service to the rest of our fellows, how we can be more productive. You know, whether you apply them in your family, yourself, work, whatever mode it is, there are some, you know, real concrete tools that lots of people talk about. When you were talking about those 3 habits, you know, I spent 18 hours a day drinking and drugging, right? When I sobered up, I had to replace that time, right? Well, work was good, but, you know, and I was doing therapy and the halfway house and meetings and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And that was good too. But there were a couple hours a day in there still unaccounted for. Mm-hmm. So you have to develop those really slick habits. And you started out by asking me about, you know, I say yes to everything and I do a lot of stuff and I'm so perpetually busy. I blame one person for it. When my first second counselor in treatment, wonderful guy, passed away a couple years ago, named Mike Langen. Mike, about, I don't know, 2 weeks into my working with him, I was maybe 7 or 8 weeks sober at that point, said to me, you don't like to do things you're not good at. And I got very angry with him. And then he said, prove me wrong. What do you do that you're not good at? And I was like, that's the most ridiculous. No one does that. And he goes, oh, I do lots of stuff I'm not good at. It's how I learn. It's how I stay active. It's how I stay interested in things. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you know, you like cooking and you work in kitchens, you do all this kind of stuff, and you do crossword puzzles because you're good at those, and you read well, so you do a lot of reading. He said you hide out in those 5 or 6 things that you do well. He said, when was the last time you tried something new, learned something new, and stuck with it? And I was like, I had no answer for him. So he challenged me to find that thing. And I did. The first thing that I tried was snowboarding. It was winter here in Minnesota. And I had tried skiing. I was a lifelong skier. And I tried skiing, but we don't have mountains here. We have little hills. And, you know, 2 turns and I was down. And I was like, well, that's boring. And I extended the size of the runs here in Minnesota, these little hills, by learning to snowboard. I've now been snowboarding for 28 years. I still ski and snowboard. But he got me into trying something new. And I think that plays into that idea of saying yes to things. Because in a very simple way, Mike's, you know, desire to have me try something new is what 28 plus years later fuels me to be saying yes to things unless I have to discard them, because I can only carry so much shit in my basket, right? So we're always discarding stuff, but I do have a very full basket, that is for sure. But it goes back to that habit of wanting to learn and try new things and remaining teachable.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, you know, if a child says, I can't do something, we as adults say, yes, you can.
Sure.
You know, if we're helping somebody do something, we say, yes, we can. Yes, you can. But yet as
Sure.
an adult, we forget to tell ourselves those same things when we want to break outside of our comfort zone and take off that warm, fuzzy blanket, you know, because again, if you want something easy, you know, That's okay. But why not try something hard, something difficult? And also, let's change the focus of it. Because if we say it's hard, if we say it's difficult, and if we believe it, again, not to be cliche, we achieve just that. I can't sleep at night. Well,
Yep.
You're right. You can't. I mean, this is something very common in all the emails I get every day. Ricky, I can't sleep. Help me, sleep better. And yet at the same time, they've convinced themselves they cannot do it. So the real question is, how do you change the way you think so you can change your world? And it's becoming more conscious and more acknowledgeable of that simplicity.
Yeah.
You're saying that self-talk that you're saying to yourself.
Yeah. It's vitally crucial.
Yeah.
Vitally crucial. So many people who have a lot of isms talk about the committee in their head, right? They never want to go into their own mind. They don't suggest you go in there alone because it's such a dangerous place. It's how you get out of that, right?
Yeah.
It's how you start to listen to that clearer voice, because in all that noise is a lot of, your brain tells you a lot of things that aren't true, right? Don't try that food. You won't like it.
Yeah, there you have it. It's like bitter party of one. Yeah,
right.
We have a table for you right here.
Yeah. And yet what your brain doesn't tell you, or the voice is very faint, try it. You might like it.
Yeah.
Try it. The person who made it you may make their day. Try it. It's not about you. It's about being a part of, and you don't want the people you're sitting with to think poorly of you. Try it. It might give you an idea. You may not like it, but it may give you an idea about something else that's worth pursuing. I mean, there's so many doors open from trying something, but we instinctively have a tape in our head that says, don't do that, play it safe. Especially the older that you get, right? They say you're stuck in your ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. All that stuff. I think that's bullshit.
It's up to the individual.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right, I got to jump ahead. I could stay on talking about this for a long time with you, and I didn't realize how in tune you are with all this. So I'm thrilled, and I'm appreciative that you were so open. I did not expect that, so thank you.
My pleasure.
I want to jump ahead. Everybody, your success follows you. Your name follows you. But here's something that I am also kind of fascinated. I'm going to ask you if you're fascinated by it. We are in the craze now of virtual, of our phones. I mean, the average person spends an hour and 20 minutes before COVID on social media and phone, just looking at stuff. Now it's got to be double that, triple that. I'm going to go to Instagram for a second. Did you ever think, going back, that you could create a video of frying an egg for 3 minutes and show nothing but frying an egg, and that would get 2.5 million views? Does that blow do you ever think about that? And I'm referring to the video you did.
Yeah, no, I know what you're referring to.
And I'm going, this is unbelievable marketing. This is unbelievable business, that he's standing there frying the butter, clarifying, it's all going, and he cracks the egg and the sizzle and everything. And then did you go back and watch the magic of this and go, this is unbelievable?
I did and I didn't. The velocity of my life is such that the next day, I was scrolling through, I was tapping on Instagram. I hit the wrong button. It went to my posts. And the fried egg one had been the previous post. And I saw that it popped a really big number. And then I hit the insights. I saw it popped an even big number. Then I came into work that day. So it's like 24 hours after the egg thing. And the young lady who works on our social and IT stuff and helps us with a lot of those things, Vicky, says to me, boy, we ought to do more of those fried egg things. And I was, why? And, I look at the insights, I see one thing, then she shows me on her dashboard the other numbers involved. And I was just like, oh my God, it's crazy. It's crazy. We have things that get the same amount of views, impressions, but don't get as many comments. So the engagement on that, everyone had something to say about that fucking egg. No,
Doesn't that blow you away? But this is not
no, you know what
the
blew me
first
away?
time, though.
You know what blew me away? What blew me away, because I knew it was possible, and I don't say that with ego. I'm just saying, like, we've experienced this before. But there was a time, oh God, 5-6 years ago, we asked my PR company. We were just curious because we were going to do a brand deck for the first time for all of my work and brand, something that, what is the AZ brand all about? And one of the people in my office who was charged with this project said, I want to know what your total number of impressions are. So they called our PR people. Do you guys track that? And they're like, well, sort of, but we know who to ask. We'll call them. They called this company. They put my name into their little computer. They shook it up and it spat out a number. And that number, this is 5-6 years ago, was 2 billion impressions. I think it was for the year 2015. 2 billion impressions, not including television. Now, that's an awful lot of touch. That factoid not only just blew my mind, but it set our businesses on an entirely different direction, much to everyone's upset. Not mine, but everyone else's. I have a superpower. I tend to make things expensive and unwieldy. So what I did was I decided we're going to devote, if that's our platform and we have that kinds of reach, then I want to make sure we're using that for good. And we're doing a lot of we're really leaning into our mission statement at our companies, which is to make the world a better place through adventure learning. And by doing that, it really helped clarify a lot of things that we do and don't do. And we talk about that all the time. I think we're now up to something like 3 billion impressions a year without television, which is that's nuts. It's nuts.
Let's go back 5-6 years ago. Let's go back 10 years ago. Did you, I think you have to, I think you knew that you were going to be successful.
No, I did not, because that wasn't in my history. No, that wasn't in my history. What was in my history was he has great potential. What was in my history was he does a really good job when he applies himself. What was in my history was he's really reliable and super smart and great to have around until the day that he isn't. So for me in sobriety, I had to learn to be consistent. I had to learn to show up. I had to learn that the grand gesture is not important. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's irrelevant. It's the little gesture. It's just show up every day is actually what will make you special. As an employer, I remember one of my spiritual gurus said to me, yeah, just show up every day 5 minutes early, leave 5 minutes late, and make that a habit for a year. See what happens. Yeah. I was the best employee in that place that first year that I was there. Within 3 months, I was identified the best employee, because as the employer who had no idea that I had made that my mission, there was no one who worked there in that. I was the busboy dishwasher in this restaurant. No one got there 5 minutes early and left 5 minutes late. No one. And I was just like, wow, what a difference that little gesture makes. Is 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day. By the way, I was told to clock in 5 minutes after I arrived and 5 minutes before I left, because they were only going to pay me for the 7 hours of my shift. But that was not the point that my spiritual guru was trying to make, nor was it what impressed the other people, is that I would come there, I'd be set, I would change, I would be ready to work when I clocked in, right?
Back to what we talked about, being present.
So small little things. So yeah, no, I had no idea, because that was not the message. Over the course of the years, as I began to have successes in life, things began to change. And I began to experience a different side of myself, that when I applied myself and when I actually put thought and care and work and effort into something, and I didn't half-ass or half-measure anything, I actually put everything I had into it, things worked out and I was successful. And then a different message came in to my brain. One that was very unspiritual and very unsettling to my life. There was a period, 8, 9, 10 years sober. This is going back almost 20 years or about 20 years, where I started thinking to myself, well, I got this thing locked. I've unraveled the secret of life. I have the key to success and happiness. I'm amazing. And, you know, the universe has a really great sense of humor, right? There's an old spiritual axiom that says, do you want to hear the universe laugh? Tell them what your plans are. And I was creating my own plans and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So I learned the hard way through a bunch of life mistakes and errors that, all right, cut me down a peg. You're right, universe. Thank you for the reminder. And, you know, I just still happens. But, you know, I pursue being right-sized. And that's extremely helpful.
Yeah. You know, we share a common friend, and I want to thank him, Billy Harris, for introducing us. Billy and I have always said, since we've known each other at 15 years old, childhood friends, you know, there is no overnight success. We work really, really hard. And we've said that to ourselves every single year.
He's the third best kisser in Los Angeles. He's a little handsy. I mean, it's just like, just cut it out.
I'm so grateful that he introduced us. And I've been, you know, like I said, a big fan, and you know, I appreciate your time. Before we do leave, I do want to let you. You got some new projects coming up, so you know, let's do the
tons of stuff. But I would just encourage people go to andrewzimmern.com, and everything is there. Our partners page is loaded with great people that we do great things with in the nonprofit space, in the social justice categories, in our advocacy work. Really good partners who we love to have people support. It's one of the, you know, award-winning, James Beard award-winning website for food and food content. And I mean, it's a cool thing. And plus on there are all things Andrew. So there's a lot of stuff to unwind there.
And I'll mention your new spices that you have out.
Super cool. You know, I found this happened to me all in one day. The Duchess of Sussex was asked about what her favorite food was in some interview where someone was trying to ask her something that no one had asked her before, and they asked her what her favorite food was. And you know, this is a woman who loves food so much she flew Daniel Hume over to England to cook the events for her wedding, and she said it's salt cod fritters. And they said, oh, really? Do you have a recipe for that? She said, no, I use Andrew Zimmern's recipe. And so, you know, the Duchess of Sussex, you talk about, that's the stuff. It's not the Instagram shit. It's like that the Duchess of Sussex thinks my salt cod fritters are her favorite. That's her favorite food. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I was reminded of that because the Instagram post, I'm off Instagram today because today I'm taking a break in support of the awareness raising around the issues on Facebook and Instagram. So I'm freezing my account for 24 hours. It's an organization called Stop Hate for Profit, which I really believe in. But the post before that was a post about my latest, my spice line, which I'm really proud of. It's delicious spices. There's a lot of freeze-dried vegetables and things in there, so like shallots and citrus rind and garlic and dehydrated leeks and things like that, so that it rehydrates. They all make dips and marinades, but it really boosts the flavor component. And people can go on to my website and find out about it. BadiaSpice.com they're sold there. They're sold in Walmart. It's really great.
Awesome.
So I clicked on it. The first comment, when you click on comments on my post from yesterday, is from Charlize Theron. I'm ordering mine today, 4 exclamation marks. what kind of world? What kind of world where the Duchess of Sussex is eating my salt cod fritters and Charlize Theron is rushing out to Walmart to get my spice line into her kitchen? That is a crazy, fantastic world, and I wouldn't live in any other one, despite the horrific issues surrounding our cultural pandemic and our viral pandemic. I believe in the power of the human spirit to win out. I'm not a glass half full person or half empty. I believe the glass is refillable. And I think we're just one of those hinge events in world history that we're going to get out of, and we're going to be the better for all this mess that we're in. And I'm just remaining positive and you know, waking up and doing it one day at a time.
Well, you've done this with your show. You've done this with your personality and your brand, bringing people close together. I've heard you say it even in your show. You know, food brings people closer together from all different countries. And again, if this is your first time hearing about Andrew and this is your first, encounter, I please don't let it be the last. Follow him. Look at his material. Look at his content. Look at his shows. They're just great information, a lot of fun, and you get to know Andrew very, very quickly, and he becomes part of,
thank you, Ricky,
watching a great experience. Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
I appreciate you.
Bye-bye. Take it easy.